Saki mbwembwana kwele mchele kwa kuku kumwaga. Sako na wapenda yatusema nitasikia.
My name is Niraj Shah, and I'm currently a sophomore at Northwestern University. Today, I want to talk to you a little about problem solving and what I learned over the last year at Northwestern that ties back into a project that I started in 9th grade. Before I start my story, I wanted to familiarize you with the engineering design process. It's great for engineering and designing things, but I'd go one step further by saying that this is the process to follow when you want to solve any problem. So first, you start with asking. You want to identify the problem, the needs and the constraints of the problem, and just figure out what it is you're trying to solve. Then you go a step further and research the problem and develop a good understanding of what it is, because without that you won't be able to actually make a meaningful solution. Then you want to imagine possible solutions and just brainstorm whatever you can, whatever crazy ideas you can think of to solve this. Then you plan. You select a good solution, something promising that you think could actually work, and you create it. You ideate, you build that prototype, you build the idea, bring it to life. After you do that, you want to test and you want to evaluate that idea or prototype and see how it works, how it could be better, what are the good aspects, what are the bad aspects. Then you want to improve it, redesign what's bad, keep what's good, and keep doing that until you find something you're happy with. Now, back to the story. I moved from Connecticut to Mumbai, India, when I was 4 years old. I used to have a live-in nanny that I became quite fond of as a child. She was with us for a couple of years, but then we moved back to America and she went to work for my aunt and grandmother. A few years later, I moved back to India and she came back to work for us. Eventually, her parents set up an arranged marriage for her, and she had to leave to go and start a family. She left for good around the time I was 11 or 12, but she was a large part of my formative years and I was always fond of her. My grandmother stayed in touch with her through the years, and we learned that she was in an abusive relationship with 2 little girls, no money to her name, and nowhere to go. Hearing about this made me remember something about when she was still working for us. We'd set up a bank account for her, and she had slowly been accumulating a modest savings. She had insisted on having her father be a joint owner on her bank account. One day, she realized that her father had emptied all of her savings and kept it for himself. Her experiences made me realize that a large number of underprivileged women in India are living in a patriarchal society, where the men hold all the power and the women are largely excluded from it. I started looking into the financial aspects of underprivileged women in India and quickly realized that most big financial decisions in this sector are taken by the father, the brother, or the husband. The women have very little say. They're either deliberately not allowed to have a hand in financial matters, so the men retain an upper hand and the women have to be dependent, or they just lack the confidence to try and manage their own finances and willingly leave these major decisions to the men in the family. While inherently it isn't bad to have males in the family manage the money, it causes millions of underprivileged women in India to be financially dependent, and that can come with consequences. This low engagement in the financial process can leave them in a precarious situation in the case of a divorce or a death of the money manager of the family, leaving them vulnerable to be taken advantage of. Additionally, if they're married to a drunk or someone abusive, they have no financial power whatsoever, as they're completely dependent. A counselor in a crisis center talked about how cash is a lifeline for underprivileged women, especially the ones who are being abused. Without money, they cannot plan for an escape, take public transportation to a police station, or even buy medicines to treat their wounds. One woman that was interviewed mentioned how she hides small sums of money all over the house. That way, even if her husband finds one stash, she says, it won't seriously damage her savings, and that way, he can't get too drunk either. In my research, I found a staggering statistic. A Standard & Poor's survey found that 80% of adult Indian women are not financially literate. Financial literacy is a combination of awareness, knowledge, skill, attitude, and behavior necessary to make sound financial decisions and ultimately achieve financial well-being. I decided that I wanted to do whatever I could to help these women achieve financial well-being, allowing them to take a little bit of power back for themselves. I tied up with an NGO that works with underprivileged women in the 18 to 25-year-old age group, with the aim of providing them with the skills necessary to thrive in modern-day India. I then went to talk to these women, trying to figure out what stood between them and financial well-being. What I understood from that conversation is that most of these women were scared of banks. Thinking about it, that made a lot of sense, especially because the act of opening a bank account goes something like this. The woman says, "Hi, I want to open a bank account." Bank teller, "Great, we have 4 options for you. A fixed deposit is currently offering about a 4 to 6% interest rate with the recurring deposit also offering similar rates, which vary based on their tenures. Current accounts are offering a 2 to 4% interest rate, and the savings account rates are similar as well." The woman, rightly so, says, "I'd rather just go and hide my money under my mattress." These women first have to wrap their minds around giving their hard-earned money to an institution with no idea what will happen to it. And then when they actually try to open accounts, they have no idea what the bank teller is talking about. Now is a good time to go back to briefly touch upon the design process again. So in this situation, first I identified a problem and realized that financial illiteracy is a big problem among low-income women in India. And then I did a significant amount of research to actually understand the intricacies of this problem. And now I'll talk a little bit about how I tried to develop possible solutions to it for the problem. Back to the story. For my solution, I wanted to make something similar to Khan Academy, video lessons with a test at the end to see how much they learned, but I also wanted to make it more fun. Over the course of a couple summers, using the design process to plan solutions, build prototypes, test the prototype, and improve it over and over, I ended up with this module as my final design. I had the requisite video lessons and tests, but I also created a game that would allow them to make their own financial decisions, that teaches them about financial goals and the best corresponding bank accounts to open, why they shouldn't keep money at home, why it's important to save money, and what investing is. I was in 9th grade when I made this, so it's not the best quality, but it does get the point across. I wanted to use it to familiarize them with the terminology they would encounter in a bank. I also incorporated comics about financial literacy so they could learn more about it in a fun way. I then taught the teachers at the NGO centers how to use this module and teach it to their students, and they soon started using the module as a way to teach financial literacy. I wanted to arm these women with the knowledge to not be scared of banks, to be able to stand up for themselves and achieve independent financial well-being so they don't have to be dependent on anybody. Using the design process, I was able to identify a problem, talk to the people that were directly affected, do enough research to understand the extent of the problem, ideate and prototype a solution that was rolled out to hundreds of women. If you take away anything from this video, I want you to remember that whenever you find a problem that you want to solve, remember the design process. Each step is a building block to the next. Lastly, I want you to understand that no problem is too big. If you put your mind to it and make a concerted effort, you'll be able to do anything you set your mind to. I tried to take on financial illiteracy in patriarchal societies in India. I likely didn't even make a dent in the scope of the problem, but I like to think about it as a small step in the right direction. Large problems can be solved by lots of people making small steps in the same direction. Thanks for watching.
Nanipaga moyo nikianza kulia chozi nafutia.